What's going on, guys? I consider myself a jack of all trades, but my name's Jeff, so welcome to Jeff of All Trades. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Glock 17 Gen 4. We're going to be field stripping it, giving it a good clean, and putting it all back together. Let's get started.
Glock was the first mass-produced pistol that used polymer instead of steel and traditional materials. The Glock 17 is debatably one of the most reliable and rugged pistol that you can buy. Trusted by the police force and military around the world, there's no wonder why this gun is the gun to buy. Let's get it clean.
So this is your Glock 17. First thing you want to do before taking it apart, cleaning it, doing anything like that, you want to ensure that the gun is completely clear and safe. How you do that is remove the magazine by pressing the magazine release. The mag will fall right out. Next thing you want to do, pull the slide back and ensure that there's nothing in the chamber. Once you've done both of those things, the weapon is clear and you're ready for the next step. First step for taking down the Glock 17 and field stripping is to get the slide off. When you do this, everything will be exposed and you'll be able to get a nice deep cleaning on it. To do so, pull back slightly on the slide. I use this technique that I got from Hickok 45. Put your hand in a C shape under the beaver tail with your thumb and slightly pull back on the slide. Doesn't take much. When doing so, there's a tab on this side and a tab on the other side. When you pull back on the slide, you pull down on both of those tabs at the same time and release. The slide will go forward and everything comes off. Once the slide is off, you can see the spring and the barrel. Your next step is going to be taking the spring out. To do that, simply depress on the back here and it'll pop right out. That easy. And the final step of field stripping is to remove the barrel. If you flipped it over, it would fall right out. Push up slightly, slide the barrel right out. With that done, that is your complete field strip of the Glock 17. Once it's field stripped, we can get into the cleaning and lubricating of this weapon. First thing we want to clean is the barrel. The barrel should always be cleaned from the chamber to the muzzle. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. Some people will buy kits that come with everything that you'll need. They come in all different shapes and sizes. You can get larger kits, such as this one. Come with everything that you would need. What I like to personally use is called a bore snake. Now, Hops 9 sells it. This one's a little bit used, so it's harder to read. But you can see here the chambers that it'll clean. It'll clean a 380, 9mm, 38, 357. Before we get into how to use a bore snake, I want to show you how to do it the regular way in case you got a kit with your gun and you want to know exactly what to do. So you have different sizes of your bristles, your brushes here, your squeegees, you have a nylon brush, just the basic things, and then these cleaning pads, which we will use. If you were going to clean it with this, you simply find the right one that is for a 9mm, and then your rod, and they screw together. Once it's screwed together, remember, you always want to clean with the brush from the chamber to the muzzle. Simply insert it and push through. It will be difficult to do because it's the exact size for the barrel. If it wasn't difficult to push through and just slid through, you wouldn't get all the sides, you wouldn't get as much dirt and grime off that you needed. Very, very simple. Now, if you do end up going the bore snake route, which I prefer because it's simpler, this is what the bore snake looks like when it's all out. Now, with this, you can see these bristles right here that are actually woven into the nylon. Past the bristles is a thicker part of nylon. And then at the very end is the thickest part. So in order to clean it this way, very simply, cleans and lubricates all at once. Take a little bit of cleaner spray. I like to use Ballistol. Using the snake, simply spray a little bit of the cleaner on here. Going from the chamber to the muzzle. This is just the weighted piece so it falls through easier. Once it comes out, pull it all the way through. The nylon starts to go in, that's when it gets harder to pull. Like I said, it should be a tight fit, because if it's not a tight fit, it's not going to clean as well as it should. Once the bristles go in, just keep pulling. When the bristles go through, they pull off all that caked on debris that's in there. The second part, which we sprayed cleaner on, is now lubricating and cleaning the inside of this barrel. And then once we get to the thicker part, it's actually drying it off, getting rid of all that extra lubricant, all that extra cleaner that's on there. So now we'll run that through again. No need to put more lubrication on it. Pull it through. Grab the other side. Pull it right out. Now if we take a look, you can see that nice shiny finish all the way through and perfectly clean. The next thing you want to do, regardless of if you have a bore snake, we're going to have to use the brushes now. Some of these cotton squares that we have, these cleaning pads. And then you'll need either your spray or your regular oil. Now there's tons of different lubricating oils you can use. It's been debated since the beginning of cleaning guns that all oils are pretty much the same, all cleaners are pretty much the same. Pick which one you like, pick which brand you like most. Whoever recommends, you know, they all do pretty much the same thing. So pick whichever one you like and go on to the next step. Next thing you're going to want to do is actually clean the slide. Now on the slide, the most important part is everything back in here. You can see that grime in there, you can see a little bit of flaking in there, you can see the dirt. Nothing's really built up too much in it. I like to keep my guns as clean as possible and shoot them after the range every time. Some people clean them once a year, some people don't clean them at all. I feel like the more you clean them, the better they're gonna work, the cleaner they're gonna work, not gonna have any misfires. So what you wanna do is take your wire brush and wrap it in a cloth, like so. It's not to protect the weapon, it's more to protect the bristles from having them get all flared out like this brush is, unfortunately. And it also holds that lubrication on there a lot better. Now with this, you can spray it directly onto the gun and clean from there, or you can spray it directly onto the rag. Once that's nice and saturated, you want to get in between all these nooks and crannies in there. Simply take it, applying a little bit of pressure. It doesn't take much, especially if you do it frequently. If this is your first time doing it, in a while, if there's a lot of stuck on grime in there, it might take a little bit more elbow grease, but it doesn't take that much. And you'll see the results pretty instantly. Look at that. It was deceptively clean. And you can already see the difference in that. If you don't need to use the brush, you don't have anything built on, simply take a cloth, ball it up, and you can really use your fingers to get into these nooks and crannies in there. A lot of people like to use Q-tips for this portion as well. And wipe off all that lubrication you just put on there. Now this lubrication in the cleaner is fantastic for the gun. It won't hurt it. I like to get it all off and use a oil when I oil my weapon instead of leaving this stuff on there. It's good to get all this off because right now everything that was on the gun is now sitting in the oil on your gun that you just cleaned off. So if you get rid of all that oil, you're going to continue to get rid of all that dirt, and that's what we want to do. I'm going to use this same rag because it's not that bad. Wrap up my brush again. And we'll be able to really get in right here on this flat surface. Rotate the brush to the left and right. And just a quick scrub. And you can see the difference already. You can see there's still a little bit more back in here. Ball up the cloth. Wherever you see dirt, wherever you see wet, rub it down. And I like to rub in here as well. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but in here, this is your rail. This is the rail that the slide slides on the gun. There's one on each side. I like to also give that an extra scrub in here to make sure that this rail is completely free of any grime. It's going to help the gun chamber quicker, more efficiently, and it's going to help everything run smoothly. This is also important if you're shooting in the rain, if you drop your gun into mud, everything is going to be caked up into that rail. So you want to make sure that you get both of those side rails as clean as you can. That does it for your slide. The simplest is the spraying. Nothing too exciting here. Take your spray, spray a little on it. Take your brush, no need to use a cloth. These don't usually get dirty, they don't usually hold too much grime, but it's nice to hit them. It's nice to make sure everything's as clean as possible. You already got the gun apart, why not clean it? Take a clean cloth, or if you don't want to continue to use cloths, grab a microfiber towel. These work fantastic as well. I like to use microfiber over a washcloth or a regular towel because you're not going to get pieces of cotton and everything else stuck up in there. So if you are going to use a regular towel instead of a cotton cloth, make sure that you use a microfiber so you don't get anything left behind. And that's it for your spraying. Now, the frame. Looks intimidating. Looks like there's a lot going on in here, but I promise it's not as bad as it looks. Simply take your brush. These rails is where the slide slides onto and where the slide rides. Those rails that we cleaned on the slide, that's exactly where they line up here. And then I like to get these little slides in the back as well. And this here is your trigger bar, and I like to clean that up as well. A little bit of spray. Now if you're not using the spray, take a little bit of your oil, your lubricating oil or cleaner, whatever you have, and put one drop on, put a little bit on here, and you can scrub it off that way. You do not need to use a spray. I find it's easier because it coats everything more evenly, and it's a lot easier to make sure that you got all the parts that you needed to get. And then, nothing too extensive, nothing too crazy with it. Scrub it down. I'm not using much force at all. You are not going to hurt the gun. It likes to be cleaned, I promise. There we go. And that's all that really takes. Not too much for this. I'm going to take my microfiber now and just wipe all that off. Again, very important here that you use a microfiber and not a regular towel. You don't want anything left behind in here. And there you go. Our gun is now clean. And the last step is to oil it and then put it back together. The first thing you want to do is oil the barrel. So we actually want to oil the inside of the barrel. So we're going to use this tool that came in one of our kits. It's used to hold the cloth. Take one of your cloth pads here. Fold your cloth in half and fit it right through the eye of this needle. Now take whichever oil you're planning on using. When it comes to oiling your gun and lubricating it, less is always more. There's a lot of people that want to use as much oil as possible. You'll hear the term keep them wet. With a Glock, you don't need that. Glocks don't like a lot of oil, and the more oil you put on your gun, the more dirt and grime is going to stick and adhere to that oil, making the cleaning process harder, longer, and you're going to have to do it more frequently and possibly run into issues. I just put 2 drips on it. Connect it to your rod. And push that oil through. Now when you do this, you may have a dirty cloth coming out on the other side. That's okay, nothing to worry about. See how there's a little bit of excess dirt on there? That's fine. There's no need to go back through and to re-clean the entire weapon or to freak out about it thinking you didn't do a good enough job the first time. All we're doing right now is worrying about oiling. You put your brush through a few times, you're good to go. So that is it for inside of the barrel. Wish I could show you better on it. It's difficult to show. There you go. Now for the outside of this barrel, take 1 drop on the barrel. That's all you need. 1 small drop. Take your finger, rub it on the barrel. You got to remember the barrel's going in and out of the slide every time you chamber a new round, every time you rack it back, you take it apart. So you want to make sure that this is oiled. Once you have the oil on, believe it or not, you wipe it off. We don't want to have too much on there, just enough to have it oiled and to have it run smoothly, but not enough to attract extra grime and dirt that we don't need. The next place you're going to oil is right in between here. Just 1 drop. Take one of your cloths, rub it in, and rub it off. Sounds counterintuitive, but I promise this is what the gun likes. Now onto the slide. With the slide, put 1 drop of oil right in here. Now this is where your firing pin comes out of, and this is also where that barrel butts up against and slams. You can actually see the wear marks on the back. Wherever you see wear marks, it's a good indicator that you need a drop of oil. Rub it on, and rub it off. I also like to take a little oil and put it on the inside of the barrel here. because that's where your barrel is sliding through the slide. Again, if there's any wear marks on it, that gives you a good indication of where you should be putting the oil. Put it on, put it off. Those slides we talked about when we were cleaning, we want to make sure we put 1 drop of oil in there on each side for these rails. It's important that you oil those. With just 1 drop. 1 and 1. Go ahead and take one of your rags. Rub it in on each side. Go ahead and take a clean rag and rub it off. And now, almost done. The final thing you want to lubricate is the frame itself. You want to get these rails where your slide is going to be touching, and then you want to get these rails on the back here, and then 1 drop onto this trigger arm. So 1. I'm not even squeezing the bottle when I'm putting this oil on. I'm just simply flipping it upside down, a little bit of oil that comes off, I touch it to the metal, and it comes right off onto it. That's how little oil I'm using. Take your rag and rub it in. Take your microfiber or your clean towel and rub it off. And that's all it takes to make sure you have a well-oiled gun. Now, to put it all back together, it's extremely simple. We're just going to reverse the process. First thing, take the barrel, and you want to have these notches facing up. Well, facing down, I guess, but oriented to the slide, they're going to be facing up and towards you. Take the barrel and slide it into the hole, the bottom hole. When you do that, the slide will drop, push it back in until it drops into place. You hear that click? You want to make sure that's seated correctly. And that right there is your barrel where everything's sitting and seated. With the barrel in place, take your spring. You see this rubber pad is going to go into this bottom hole here. Put that rubber pad in. Depress the spring until it falls into place. You want that spring to go onto that second notch there. I don't know if you can see that. I'll take the spring back out. So you can see that there's multiple notches on this. You want it to fall into this bottom notch here. If it's up here, it's not in all the way. Make sure it's down there. Take that rubber pad, depress it, and push down. Center it in place. Good to go. Now we just have to attach the slide to the frame. These rails that we cleaned are going to slide into these rails here and here. Line up your rails. And slide it back. Should go on flawlessly. Once you get all the way into the back, simply rack the weapon. There's no need to mess with these pins. They're going to go directly back where they're supposed to go. Rack the weapon, and it's put back together. Once put back together, you do want to rack it a few times, make sure everything's working correctly. Pull the trigger. Obviously, you did not put a magazine back in yet. Pull the trigger and make sure it functions. With the trigger depressed, pull the slide again, and let go of your trigger. It should click. If it does that, you know the weapon is in good firing order, everything was put back together the right way, and the cleaning of your Glock 17 is complete. So there you have it. How to field strip, clean, and oil your Glock 17. Let me know in the comments section down below. How often do you clean your Glock 17? Do you clean it after every time you shoot it, or do you clean it once a year? Maybe you don't clean it at all and just rely on the weapon. And with your oil, how much do you put on? Do you put on more than I do? Do you not oil it at all? Let me know all that stuff in the comments down below. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, be safe. I'll see you in the next one.